Greetings, my fellow Zen Yetians. It is I, Michael Merchant, back with two vintage news reports for your consideration from the late 1800s. I would like you to take note of the similarities, and the main difference is in this one, once again, the wild man, in quotations, is carrying a pole or a bludgeon. You almost never hear Bigfoot being reported to have a bludgeon. We see the red eyes, we see the consistent behavior, and the overall size and outward descriptive appearance is almost exactly what we get nowadays. So listen to these, and then, what do you guys think? Do you think the wild man was something different? Were these hermits living in the woods like the people thought? Or is the wild man the same thing that we have today, but we call it Bigfoot? The Hagerstown Mail, Friday, May the 5th, 1871. The Tennessee Wild Man. The Jackson, Tennessee Whig of the 13th instant says, quote, "We learned that between Saubie and Cranesville, on what is called Piney in McNary country, a strange and frightful being has been observed for several weeks. He is said to be 7 feet high and possessed of great muscular power. His eyes are unusually large and fiery red. His hair hangs in a tangled and matted mass of jet below his waist, and his beard reaches below his middle. His entire body is covered with hair, and his whole aspect is most frightful. He shuns the sight of men, but approaches with wild and horrid screams of delight every woman who is unaccompanied by a man. He sometimes, with great caution, approaches houses, and should he see a man, he runs away with astonishing swiftness, leaping the tallest fences with the ease of a deer, defying alike the pursuit of men and dogs. He has frightened several women by attempting to carry them off, as well as by his horrid aspect, and the whole country around Saubie is in concern. The citizens are now scouring the woods and are determined either to capture or drive off the monster." The Atlanta Constitution, Atlanta, Georgia, Monday morning, February the 4th, 1889. A wild man in Walker. The wild man has again made his appearance. He was seen last week near High Point by a reliable gentleman who was searching along the spurs of Lookout Mountain for mineral indications. On arriving at the head of a hollow just above Mrs. Oliver's, his attention was attracted by a thrilling screams on the side of the high spur that he had just passed along the trail below. He looked in the direction from which the noise came. What should he see but the wild man? With his fright cooled down, he discovered that the old fellow was not making any move towards him, but was standing erect and shaking his fist at him and showing signs that were not favorable to a human being. Therefore, get away was thought about immediately, but before starting he thought he would examine the wild gentleman more minutely. He was about 100 yards from him, but could distinctly see his teeth, nose, and eyes, and describes him thus: was about 7 or 7.5 feet high, hairy as an old bear, and would weigh, from his looks, 400 pounds. Had a pole in one hand that looked to be 10 feet long, which he handled as easily as a stout, healthy man would a pipe stem. His name was asked, and the answer came in the shape of a large stone which weighed at least 100 pounds, which was hurled at the inquisitive gentleman. This being done, there was no time left for any further inquiry. Consequently, he tried the working speed of his legs and feet, which worked most excellent, until he arrived at Frank Carter's shop almost breathless. As soon as he could narrate his story, a crowd was collected which started in search of the wild man of Lookout Mountain. Walker County Messenger. Given the prolific nature of the news reports from, the 1800s, this would appear to be a huge amount of favorable evidence to support this phenomenon, just based on the similarities. And yet it seems to be grossly overlooked, just cast aside. Why is that?